In the beginning, there was only a city, small, fragile, and hungry. Subscribe for more stories that echo through eternity. Surrounded by rival tribes, Rome was not yet the mighty empire that would one day rule the known world. It was only an idea, a dream, a spark carried by shepherds and soldiers across the hills of the Tiber. Legend said that Rome was born from the blood of a murdered brother and the milk of a she-wolf. That myth, violent, primal, divine, became its eternal symbol, a civilization born from conflict, destined to conquer through it. From its earliest days, Rome lived by the sword and by the law. The Republic was built upon discipline, every man a soldier, every soldier a citizen. They built roads, walls, and aqueducts that stretched like veins across continents. To the Romans, order was godly, chaos was barbaric, the Senate's voice echoed like thunder in marble halls. And the people, at least in the early centuries, believed in something pure, virtus. The Roman virtue of courage, duty, and sacrifice. Yet even as the Republic grew powerful, cracks were already forming beneath its shining surface. Rome's first wars were fought for survival. Against the Etruscans, against the Sabines, against the Latin League, but every victory fed the beast. Each conquest demanded more soldiers, more wealth, more land. Soon, survival turned into ambition, and ambition into empire. By the time Rome clashed with Carthage, the greatest naval power of its age, it was no longer fighting for freedom, but for supremacy. The Punic Wars reshaped history. Hannibal's elephants crossed the Alps. Roman legions bled at Cannae, and yet, Rome endured. When Scipio Africanus finally burned Carthage to ash, Rome emerged not as one power among many, but as the power. The republic that had once prided itself on equality among citizens became addicted to conquest. The spoils of war flooded into the city, gold from Spain, grain from Egypt, slaves from everywhere. Senators grew rich while common soldiers returned home to find their farms taken, their families starving. The gap between the rulers and the ruled widened like a wound that would never heal. Bread and circuses became the new gods of the people, entertainment for the masses, distraction from decay. In the shadow of triumph, Rome had planted the seed of its own corruption. Then came the men who sought to seize the storm. Marius, Sulla, Pompey, Caesar, each one more ambitious than the last. Civil wars tore through the Republic like wildfire. Brother fought brother. The Senate's authority crumbled beneath the weight of ambition. Julius Caesar crossed the Rubicon, declaring that the die was cast, and with that step, the Republic died. When his assassins struck him down on the Ides of March, they believed they were saving freedom. Instead, they opened the gates to empire. Under Augustus, Rome entered its golden age. The wars ceased, at least for a time. The Pax Romana, the Roman peace, stretched across continents. Roads linked the corners of the empire like arteries of control. Monuments rose to the heavens, the Colosseum, the Pantheon, the aqueducts that defied gravity itself. The Roman eagle soared higher than ever. But peace is rarely pure. Beneath the marble and mosaics, decay whispered. Bureaucracy thickened, taxes grew unbearable. The army, once filled with patriots, became a machine for hire. The empire had reached perfection, and with perfection came fragility. Rome's might was no longer rooted in its citizens, but in its systems. Paperwork replaced passion. Loyalty to Rome became loyalty to money, to survival. Foreign mercenaries guarded its borders. Generals ruled provinces like kings. And the emperors in Rome grew paranoid, cruel, and divine. Nero played his lyre while the city burned. Caligula crowned his horse as consul. Commodus fought in the arena to be adored by the mob. Power had turned inward, feeding on itself like a serpent devouring its own tail. Outside the empire's borders, new storms gathered. The so-called barbarians, Goths, Vandals, Huns, watched, learned, and waited. The empire's wealth drew them like moths to flame. Meanwhile, Rome's heart rotted. Inflation shattered its economy. The plagues thinned its people. And the faith that once bound it together fractured into 1,000 gods. In the east, Constantinople rose, shining, proud, eternal, while the west began to crumble. By the late 4th century, The Roman world had split in two. East and West, two emperors, two visions, two fates. The East, rich and fortified, endured. The West, decadent and overextended, was drowning in its own glory. The army could no longer defend its massive frontiers. Huns swept across Europe like a storm of fire. Refugees, Goths fleeing from terror, begged for Roman protection. They were granted it, only to rebel when mistreated. In 378, at Adrianople, a Roman army was annihilated. The illusion of invincibility was broken. Then came 410 AD, a date carved into the bones of history. The Visigoths, led by Alaric, marched into Rome itself. For the first time in 8 centuries, the eternal city fell. The streets that had once seen triumphal parades now echoed with screams and fire. Statues of gods were dragged into the mud, temples looted, villas burned. The empire that had conquered the world could not defend its own heart. To the ancient mind, it was the end of the world. Yet even then, Rome did not vanish overnight. It lingered, like a fading echo in the ruins. The Senate still met, though powerless. The emperors still ruled, though forgotten. In 476, when the Germanic general Odoacer deposed the last emperor, Romulus Augustulus, no armies rose in protest. There was no thunder, no flame, no final battle, just silence. The eternal empire ended not with an explosion, but with a sigh. What remained of Rome drifted eastward. In Byzantium, renamed Constantinople, the Roman name survived for another 1,000 years. Its emperors called themselves Romans. Its citizens spoke Greek. Its faith turned Christian. The old gods had died, but their temples had become churches. The empire transformed, as all things must, adapting to the spirit of the new age. The West, meanwhile, fell into the long night, what we now call the Dark Ages. But even in the darkness, Rome's shadow remained. Roman law became the skeleton of Western justice. Roman roads became the foundations of trade. Latin became the language of scholars and priests. The Catholic Church, built upon Roman administration, kept the flame alive. Every cathedral was a whisper of the Forum. Every empire that rose afterward, Spain, France, Britain, America, looked back at Rome as its mirror. To be Roman was to be powerful. To be powerful was to be eternal. But eternity, as history shows, is a dangerous illusion. Rome's fall was not a single event. It was a slow unraveling of belief. A civilization that once built colosseums for glory began to build walls for fear. The people who once thought themselves masters of the world became prisoners of nostalgia. And perhaps, that is how every empire ends, not with defeat, but with disbelief. When people stop believing in the idea that created them, even marble turns to dust. Today, the ruins of Rome still stand. Tourists walk through the Colosseum, tracing fingers over stones worn smooth by time. The Senate House stands empty, but its spirit lives in every parliament, every congress, every courtroom that still invokes order and law. The Roman eagle may no longer soar, but its shadow crosses continents in architecture, language, and ambition, in our cities, our governments, our wars. And yet, one cannot help but wonder, are we truly different from them? Our empires are no longer built of stone, but of data. Our legions march not on roads, but through networks of information. We too believe in our own eternity, our systems, our progress, our civilization. We too build monuments to our power and distractions for our people. Bread and circuses have become screens and streams. The technology may have changed, but the human story has not. The same pride, the same fear, the same blindness to collapse. Perhaps, Rome never truly fell. Perhaps it only evolved, disguised in our institutions, our languages, our dreams of control. The Roman Empire was not destroyed, it was absorbed into all of us. Every time we build and forget to question, every time we conquer and call it peace, every time we believe that our empire will last forever, we become Rome again. The ruins whisper not of death, but of memory, that even the mightiest civilization can crumble not from invasion, but from within. That no wall, no army, no god can protect a people who have forgotten why they began. And as the sun sets over the broken columns of the Forum, The question remains, echoing across centuries, into the heart of our own age. If Rome, the eternal empire, could fall, what makes us believe that we cannot? If this question stays with you, leave a like, and subscribe for what comes next.